What is up, guys? I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're covering some r/malicious compliance. If you're new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe and maybe that notification bell too. And a huge thank you to the members of our channel. You are truly appreciated as always. You give me that little inkling of hope. Maybe one day, just one day, I might be able to do this full time. I doubt it though, YouTube will shaft me in some way. And with that being said, let's get in to today's stories. Much love, guys. Our first story comes from JazzB54. You don't want veggies in your chicken soup? Got it, kids. Kids are awesome at malicious compliance, but it's a two-way street. My kids can be picky eaters at times. My wife made some damn good chicken soup, but the kids were complaining that there were veggies in the chicken soup. They hate veggies. Veggies make them sick, and they wanted my wife to pick them out of the soup. We tried to tell them that good chicken soup needs veggies to taste good, but they were being stubborn. I'm sure other parents can understand. I told the kids, if you really hate the taste of veggies, I'll make soup tomorrow, and you guys can make sure I only put stuff in you like. They liked that idea at the time. The next day, I get a pot filled with water, all the typical soup ingredients out, and gathered the kids. I asked for their approval on every item. Chicken, yes. Salt, yes. Black pepper, no. Gross, too spicy. Celery, no. I can't even stand the smell. Onions, no. It went on with that, with them rejecting parsley, bay leaves and other veggies, the total contents of the pot ending up being chicken, water, salt, noodles. After the soup was done cooking, I served it up and they excitedly started to eat. A few funny faces later, and one of them said, "It tastes weird, this isn't very good." I said, "But I only put in everything you guys approved. I think, from now on, I should make the soup right." They looked at each other and said, "Can we have mum's soup instead?" Since that day, they haven't complained about finding veggies mixed in the food. Sure, they almost always eat around carrot or green pea, but they understand that it adds flavour. Now that's a wholesome dad. I like that. That's a great story, and it's good to teach them a valuable lesson. In a good way too, not just shouting at them. You let them have their way, and well, they found out it was shit. What do you guys think of that story? Let me know in the comments below. Have you ever done something like this to your kids? Our next story is from TrexmoFlex. My friend is a manager for Costco at the membership and returns counter. Costco has a pretty relaxed return policy, so 99% of the time, customers bring things in to return or exchange. My friend says it's a no questions asked. But if on the computer system he notices in someone's transaction history that they're abusing the system, he'll deny the return and offer a pretty clear explanation as to why. Honestly, most people don't raise a big stink. The evidence is pretty clear and they say, "Okay, I didn't know that's how it worked," and go on with their lives. But last week, a customer was getting upset that my friend wasn't going to do a return, even though there was a long list of transactions that made it pretty obvious that this guy was routinely buying things, using them a few times as needed, and then returning them. In this case, he had bought a bunch of food and was trying to return the package for full returns. He's not backing down. My friend has full authority to cancel a membership, and this comes with a refund most of the time. So he tells this guy, "Sir, it doesn't seem like you're happy with our products and services. I'm going to go ahead and cancel your membership and give you a full refund of the annual fee." The guy, immediately understanding that this means he won't be allowed back in a Costco, sits kind of stunned for a few seconds, then gets real panicky like, No, I'm good, please don't do that." My friend isn't backing down, so the guy asks to speak to the manager. Friend plays the whole, "I am the manager of this department," so the guy escalates. The assistant warehouse manager comes over and looks at the transaction history and immediately sides with my friend, saying virtually the same thing, but in a super singy-songy, "We're sorry you haven't been a customer with the products we sell," and backs my friend up while he finishes cancelling the guy's membership. Damn. It's one of those situations where I would have just loved to have been there and seen that guy's face slowly as it starts to dawn on him that he's not going to be allowed back in this store anymore. What do you guys think about this story? Let me know in the comments below. Our next story comes from Antipatico. I'm sorry I forgot your name wrong. My Catholic teacher caused my suspension for asking the wrong questions. I decided to behave. This happened years ago at what would turn out to be my last year at Catholic school, for reasons that will become obvious. I didn't have anything against people of faith, but it was not my thing, very early on. I was 12 years old and in 7th grade. I was becoming disenchanted with my Catholic upbringing. I had so many questions, and it might have saved my faith to have them answered reasonably. The adults didn't want to reason with a curious 12-year-old. They wanted to see a nice Catholic girl who didn't feel compelled make so much distasteful noise. Sex ed was still part of any Catholic curriculum, and as it turned out, my religion teacher, Mrs. M, was also my sex ed teacher. When she opened up our first sex ed class with, "Now, I'm just as embarrassed to be here as you are," I didn't see it as an expression of empathy. I saw it as a grown woman humiliated to be teaching basic biology. It made me sad. Junior high sex ed wasn't just biology though, it was an effort to shape our view of the world. Mrs. M taught us health, as per Catholic doctrine, and also peppered in with some of her own weird personal viewpoints, shaped by our own history I guess. We had this box at the front of the class, where we could discreetly write down and drop off the questions we were too nervous to ask out loud. Someone asked what orgasms feel like for women. We knew men ejaculate, but what do women do? Mrs. M did not explain. Perhaps she hadn't had one a day in her life. She said, the woman's orgasm isn't necessarily part of sex. It is not necessary for procreation, and sex is for the purposes of procreation. That sounded very dodgy to me. I brought her statement home to my mother, who had always been very open to me about these things. I asked her if women really weren't supposed to enjoy sex all that much. She was horrified. She told me lots of men like to make women feel good, and sex should feel good for everyone. Then she said something that would be lastingly valuable. Ask questions in that class. Teachers are supposed to answer your questions, and if they can't, maybe they shouldn't be teachers. The next class, Mrs. M taught us that homosexuality was a sin. This was too much for me. I had a gay uncle who had been a huge fixture in my life. I felt attraction to girls in my class, and I refused to believe God would think, who you would love is worthy of hellfire. She went on to say gay marriage was both impossible and wrong. I raised my hand and asked her plaintively, why is gay marriage wrong? Her answer was, because they cannot procreate, and procreation is the purpose of marriage. I sat silently. I didn't demonstrate agreement or dissent. I went home and thought for a while. I needed to come back to sex ed class with an inquiry that was going to properly fuck Mrs. M's shit up. It didn't seem like an easy task, but I came up with something I thought was worth trying out. The next sex ed class rolled around. Mrs. M taught whatever stuffy, deplorable lessons she had in the plan. Then she opened up the class to questions. I raised my hand. She called on me and I said, if a woman is infertile, but she loves the man she's with and wants to share the sacrament of marriage with him, does the church approve the marriage? It was a no-brainer for her, of course. I followed up with, but she can't have children and marriage is for procreation. Why can't she get married, but two men or two women who can't procreate can't? Anyone who is seasoned with Christian apologetics can explain this one pretty easily. But I had hit Mrs. M somewhere deeply personal in front of 30 other children. Mrs. M was a married woman of around 50 or so, with no children of her own. Very unusual for a Catholic woman who doesn't believe in birth control. Mrs. M was infertile, and to her, I was questioning the sanctity of her marriage, and its validity in the eyes of God she dedicated her life to. It was a sucker punch, and she couldn't collect herself to punch back. She instead flew into a rage. Her face became a deep shade of red as she said, "This is not a debate class," and sent me to the office. For context, I didn't know Mrs. M was infertile. It's something my mother told me post-office battle. An apology letter was determined to be sufficient by Mrs. M. My mum came to collect me, and battle ensued. Mrs. M wanted blood by way of suspension, and my mother was having none of it. Curious kids don't get suspended for questioning what they are taught. The only thing that worked in my favour was my history of being a nerdy, non-disruptive child with good grades. A compromise was struck. I wouldn't get suspended, but I could not participate in sex ed class, nor religion class. My grades in those classes would be determined solely by the written portions. These written portions were completed at a desk positions outside the classroom, which Mrs. M smugly carried out for me every class. I didn't mind working outside of the classroom because to me, it was a good example of the ease which an adult can collapse under a child's questioning. I decided that religion and sex ed would become my speciality classes. I would master the curriculum, I would get the best grades I could, and Mrs. M would have to watch it happen. I worked very hard, harder than I had in any other classes. I studied at length and did additional research online. I finished out the semester with a 95% in sex ed and 98% in religion. The final exams for both classes were entirely multiple choice. I was permitted into the classroom to be supervised for the exams, and there was no room for her biases to creep into grading. She passed me the Scantron sheet back from my religion exam, 100%. I thanked her with a saccharine smile. She fixed me with a grim expression before moving on to the next classmate. A few days later, it was the Scantron sheet for the sex ed exam, 100%. I said, "Thank you for all you've taught me," as I smiled up at her. She said something under her breath and moved on. Mrs. M hated me with a distinctly un-Christ-like passion, and she found other ways to express it in the following semester. It warms my heart a little to think of her having to grade all my schoolwork, one correct answer after another. The relentless, curious, heretic nerd girl was a pain in her side that wouldn't go away. Worst of all, she demonstrated she understood what you were teaching. She just didn't believe in it. Wow. From what she was saying, they were all totally valid questions. I don't know how she could get thrown out for this. It's kind of ridiculous, right? Has anyone else had any similar experiences in sex ed or religion class? I mean, I'm not against religion at all, as the post says. If you believe in faith, if you're a person of faith, fair play to you. If that's your thing, I can't say it's a thing for me. Personally, I do believe in some things out there. I'm not sure what, whether that's believing in God, I don't know. I think there's something more to life, but who knows? I don't know. And that's part of the beauty of life, right? We just don't know. And when I say I don't know, I know about the Big Bang Theory and all that sort of stuff as well, okay? I'm not saying that that's not relevant. Don't get on my back about this. What do you guys think about this story? Let me know in the comments below. Our next story is from Mine Seller. My mum decided to teach my school-age self to fart in the bathroom. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, my mum suddenly decided to teach my sister and I to hold our farts in until we entered the bathroom. I have no clue why. Maybe she got tired of us letting one rip when the urge came upon us. This might have been a very useful skill to have because, as a child, I used to hold my farts the whole school day, let them go like a bat out of hell the minute I walked through the door at home. Unfortunately for her, I thought farts were the funniest thing on earth. Oh god, I'm a child. And they could be used with close family as a tool for my own humorous needs. So she randomly tells us from this point forward we're only to fart in the bathroom. We lived in a single family home with only one bathroom, so I'd hold my farts in all day until I heard her not only enter the bathroom but sit on the toilet and start using it. I would then open the door, stick only my ass into the room and let go of the farts I'd been holding. I would then close the door and say, "Excuse me," and walk away to laugh. After a few days, the only fart in the bathroom rule was ditched. Oh, the picture of just sitting on the toilet and just seeing someone open the door and sticking their ass through the crack of the door. Oh, that's so schoolboy humour. I'm such a child. Our next story is from Sit and Drift. Mailbox customer gets and doesn't get exactly what he asked for. I own a mail shop. You've probably seen 100 like mine. We have mailboxes we rent and he rented one. We'll just call him Box 109. 109 wasn't a nightmare customer, but he also was never pleasant. He always accused us of changing the lock on his box because his key didn't work. Inevitably, he just wasn't using it correctly, and I'm aware of how crazy this sounds. We are required under the United States Postal Service to hold mail for 6 months, and then we can return to sender or send to the customer's last known address. We are not required to provide this mail free of charge in the interim. Usually if it's just a piece or two or something we know is important, we'll call the customer and hand it over with a smile. Well, 109 tells my employee that he's expecting some mail from the DMV and he'd like him to tell him when it's here. Time goes by, we're now at month 6 and I'm getting ready to return to sender. My employee sends a stack, mostly stuff from the IRS, and says, "Oh, let me call him." I say, "Okay, that's awfully nice of you, go for it." So she calls, he comes in and proceeds to berate her for calling him for mail he doesn't want. Apparently the letters from the IRS are just annoyance letters he intends to ignore. He leaves before I get the chance to kick him out, too slow on the draw. It's now been 8 months since his box closed. Guess what came in for him the other day? His stimulus check. My employee looked torn and I told her, "He said everything from the IRS is just crap. Return it to sender. We're just doing exactly what he requested." I gave her the honour of doing it. Fair play to you. I mean, if he's going to be an arsehole to you, he gets that, right? He deserves that. Our next story is from user Sono61. I got pulled over by a cop with my dick out. I posted this on r/Tifu, but I thought it would fit perfectly here as well. So today I was on my way home from a doctor's appointment with my pregnant fiance. Since I'm not allowed to go into the doctor, and we didn't plan on going anywhere else, I decided to go commando, since I didn't have any clean underwear. Yeah, first mistake. So not even halfway home, my fiance starts complaining. By complaining, I mean complaining. Her pants were too tight, her legs hurt, she's losing circulation because of her jeans, etc. So after about 30 minutes of this, I get annoyed and decided, fuck it. We aren't stopping anywhere on the way back home. I'm giving her my shorts so I can have peace. I pull over, pull my shorts off and give them to her. It worked. She was content. So there I am, dick out, driving 80 miles per hour down a 60 mile per hour speed limit highway. Yeah, I think you know where this story is going. Wee woo, wee woo. I pulled over and proceeded to freak the fuck out. I was going 20 over and my dick is laying down on the seat. My fiancée couldn't control her laughter. but I was fucking terrified. I'm not sure why, but the officer came over his speaker thingy and asked me to step out the car. I think it was because it was dark and my windows are tinted, I'm not sure. But this is where my heart sank to my stomach. While I'm trying to figure out what the fuck to do, I hear, "Sir, please step out of the vehicle." I said, officer, I don't have any Sir, step out of the vehicle." "But, sir, don't make me tell you again." At this point I was getting irritated. Don't ask me why I didn't think of getting my shorts back from my fiance. I don't know why I didn't. I was panicking. I poked my head out the window and looked back. "Officer, please step out of the vehicle." This is the point where I just go fuck it and throw my door open. I stand up and look at the officer with my dick out. I was trying to tell you I was naked. The officer just looked at me for a minute, then put his face in his hands. "Okay, get back inside the vehicle." He cautiously approached my vehicle and started asking questions. The story is long enough, so I won't add everything he asked us, but we ended up getting a speeding ticket and a good ass chewing in the end. I think that's the wrong use of ass chewing at the end of this story. Oh god. How do people get themselves into this situation? Well, you did explain it, but still. There isn't much you can say to the situation. It's just one of those freak situations that happen. And a funny story for later on in life that you can tell your little one. Oh my word. Anyway guys, what did you think of today's stories? Did you enjoy them? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to click that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. You are truly appreciated, and I can't thank you enough for the time out of your day. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Much love, guys.